Well, if you're seeing this, you are one of the ones that just check the channel or follow me on Twitter at the quartering and don't rely on any kind of notification system. And I appreciate you for that. And I'm hoping that you'll mobilize one more time today. I know it's late, but to share a story of tech censorship. Now, Amazon, Jeff Bezos, and all et al. Have been in the headlines a lot lately. In particular, I think doing some good things with by opening 100,000 jobs to people who are clearly going to need them and making a large donation. I think it was $100 million. Take that, Ethan Klein, to responding to everything going on right now around the world. Now, Amazon has had a few select operations where they have removed certain content that they didn't like. And it's curious, at least to me, that they choose now to remove a documentary called Hoaxed by Mike Cernovich. Now, I genuinely don't care about someone's personal political beliefs. I know that many of you may not care for Mike Cernovich. There have been things that he has said in the past and done in the past that I didn't agree with. But that doesn't mean you can't support somebody in the face of censorship. You can't let these issues be partisan. You have to always stand up and work together, because while you may not agree with a particular piece of content, or maybe you even really dislike it, if you sit idly by and don't push back, then when they remove something that you do support, we're going to remember that. That's just the way it works. You've got to fight this kind of tech censorship regardless. And this is another ridiculous case of it. Now, on Reclaim the Net, always doing a great job covering a lot of these issues, Hoaxed ends up becoming the #1 documentary on iTunes right now. Interesting. I would like to call that the Barbra Streisand effect, I imagine. Suspiciously censored on Amazon Prime. Amazon refuses to say why. This is why we have to share this video, and this is why we have to mobilize, because I want answers, just like many of you, when these type of things happen. Now, if we look, Mike Cernovich's documentary Hoax, which extensively discussed media manipulation, has suddenly been removed from Amazon Prime Video without Amazon giving a reason. The Hoax documentary deconstructs America's post-fact media landscape with creative insiders' look at the fake news phenomenon and the consequences of media misinformation, and features interviews with those who have found themselves on the receiving end of that. Hoax was racing up the charts since it arrived on the platform in March, but has now been removed. Users cannot find it either on the mobile app or the Prime Video website anymore. As of right now, search for the title will land users on a page that says, "Our agreements with the content provider don't allow purchases of this title at the time." It's also worth noting that Amazon is said to be removing the content from the users who have already purchased it as well. Considering the fact that Hoaxed was among a top 50 documentary series on Prime Video, the platform's sudden action in wiping away the title is raising the eyebrows of many. And now we see a tweet from Mike Cernovich. What's wild about Hoax being banned is no one was even trying to get it banned. Something really shady is happening behind the scenes. Plot twist, people who bought Hoaxed have told me it's been removed from their library. I wonder if they were given refunds on top of that, which means there are strong lawsuits to be brought, and Cernovich is the type of guy that will do it. He has said, "I've always supported Amazon workers in principle, but now if there's anything I can do to help them organize a strike, I've just been incentivized. Thanks Bezos for banning Hoax." Amazon declined to comment on the issue when asked by Reclaim the Net, but fans of the documentary are taking to social media to show their concern about Amazon's censorship and instead purchasing it on other platforms. It's pretty alarming to me. Now, you see the book is still here. I wonder how long that's going to be allowed. There's a lot of interesting articles. Amazon appears, and you know what's frustrating about this? What's really frustrating about this is nobody that would be considered, like, why is Breitbart the only person covering this? You know what I mean? Like, come on. It is so obvious that a bias exists. If this were to have happened to, let's say, a documentary that benefited the left-leaning mainstream, I mean, how are people supposed to not think that there's some shenanigans going on here? I fight hard to stop short of promoting this grand scheme going on behind the scenes. But how are people supposed to think anything else? And isn't it interesting that none of the mainstream media outlets are covering this? Shocking. It's not like Hoaxed was some nothing documentary. It was very popular. When you read the article here, as of Thursday evening, users who search for the term hoaxed in Prime Video and Prime Video mobile app will not be able to find the documentary, despite the fact that it has been available for rental and purchase on the Amazon service since late March. As of 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday, options to purchase or rent the title via Prime Video appear to have been removed altogether. The Prime Video page for the documentary is now showing a message telling users that the title is unavailable for purchase at this time. In a post on Twitter, Cernovich reported that Amazon was also removing the title from devices who have already purchased. Cernovich reported that prior to its removal, Hoax had been in the top 50 documentaries across all of Prime Video. Searching for it in all categories and all departments brings up a DVD link for the documentary as of the 14th, but many other results are less relevant to the search term. Amazon has yet to respond to requests for comment. They won't, by the way, asking them to explain why the newly released documentary has been removed. Despite having only been hosted on the platform for a few weeks, Hoax had already accumulated 174 reviews from Amazon users with highly positive 4.4 out of 5 reviews. In a comment to Breitbart, Cernovich condemned Amazon for censoring his documentary. Amazon sells films depicting graphic actions, but they are censoring a film that presented bipartisan, even-keel look at the phenomenon of fake news. It makes us wonder if the segments of hoax, certain segments of the hoax triggered the censors. Amazon has contracts with certain government officials. It's interesting to me. It's interesting to me. And here's the thing. Let's say that this documentary did have a slant. Name one that doesn't. The term documentary doesn't mean anything like it used to. People think that The Tiger King or Making a Murderer were documentaries. They weren't. They're not necessarily a mockumentary, but their presentation of the facts are purposely laid out to plant the seed of doubt. There's a lot of information from both of those cases that clearly make somebody like Joe Exotic look really, really bad that were left out. I don't think that was just a coincidence. We could say the same thing for another very popular Netflix documentary, Making a Murderer. Same thing. Very obvious pieces of evidence that were left out of the documentary altogether. Documentaries almost always have some sort of slant to them. So if the argument is that Cernovich's Hoaxed had some sort of slant, well, then I would ask, so? Then leave it up and call it a movie or a film. I don't understand why we're having to have this conversation in 2020, but it's very curious timing with the presidential election coming up in just a few months, when the media's reputation has never been worse, when many see the mainstream media as an enemy of the people. Actions like this that seek to suppress exposing that. And by the way, if you think that fake news is exclusive to one side of the aisle, you're sorely mistaken. Fake news and the 24-hour news cycle has been in place since the beginning of time. Well, fake news, essentially, not the 24-hour news cycle. It's only gotten more obvious now with the 24-hour news cycle. When you have essentially networks like CNN, which is just an extension of the Democratic Party, and Fox News, which is just an extension of the Republican Party. Neither of these networks are unbiased. MSNBC obviously leans to the left, promotes left-leaning ideologies, slams the president every day. Fox News generally doesn't slam him, although sometimes they do. These are a problem. These issues are a problem. This is why independent news coverage on YouTube is so important and why it's so difficult to do. Just look at the policies that YouTube had in place for months, while CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News were all cashing in on the gold rush that is the current health situation in America. YouTubers couldn't, because we're not legitimate news sources. Well, neither are any of them. And when we're swimming upstream constantly, whether it's against YouTube, mainstream media, print media, then you're working with tech censorship in Silicon Valley, we must stand and fight against all forms of censorship, regardless of the sides of the aisle. I hope that you'll share this video. I hope that you'll fight to get this video restored. We'll talk to you again real soon.